Hey guys, welcome to the studio. Today I'm going to show you how to stack a bisque fire in an electric kiln. I have my pots ready right here behind me. Never mind the mess of the studio, you know how it is. We have things in progress, things happen, and it gets messy. Clean it up later, or so I say. Alright, so I have my pots ready to go. The kiln's all empty and that's ready to go. So let's get started. I'm going to move you over. So bear with me for a sec while we slide over and down. So I have my little L&L Kiln Sitter kiln that I'm going to be loading today. This is a kiln that's about 43 years old. Yep, you heard me, 43 years old. I got this second hand about 13 years ago and she was 30 years old when I got her. Never fired and she works like a champ. So the first thing I want to talk about was when you're loading a kiln. If this is the first time you've ever loaded a kiln or this is your brand new kiln and you've never loaded one before, my suggestion is this. Let me pull these guys out. So kilns come, and in the bottom of the kiln is nothing. It's just the bottom of the kiln. And so what I do, and I'm pretty sure what you should do, is you put some kiln posts in the bottom, like I have here, and on that you put just an empty kiln shelf. So this kiln shelf becomes the bottom of your kiln. Do not ever fire on the actual kiln bottom, because if your work melts to it, it will ruin it. And also there's not any airflow because that's the bottom there. There's no place for the hot air to get under and circulate, so you won't get as even of a firing. So you want to put just an empty kiln shelf. Now this kiln is small enough so I can have a bit of an echo down in there. So this kiln's small enough so that I can have just one shelf on it. If you have a bigger kiln, you might have to have two half shelves, one on each side, but that's fine. It's the same idea. You just go with that. All right, so I have my first shelf in, and when I fire, everybody has different rules about, oh, you put big pieces on the bottom because there's more airflow and then it's more even, or you put small pieces, whatever. I like to put my smaller pieces on the bottom. It just makes sense to me when I think about stacking something. You start with your smaller levels and then you go to your big ones. So I'm gonna load up some mugs, and as I'm loading, I'm thinking about where my kiln posts are gonna be. If you want, you can add your kiln posts in first. Look, I could put them down in. So I know one is gonna be, see, I need to move that guy. One is gonna be here, one is gonna be here, and the other is down there. You always want 3 points of contact because that's the most stable. If you go with 4, you're gonna always have a wobble. So you always want 3. And you always want them to stack in the same place on each level. So where I've put these 2 here on the top, when I do my next level, I'll put the other 2 there and 1 at the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish stacking this kiln up. Now, I know what size these mugs are, and I have already measured to make sure that these posts are the right size, so that I don't have to worry about my top shelf that goes on this bumping my pots. And you can see I'm placing them close, but not touching. You know, it is a bisque kiln. You can fire bisque pots touching, and that's fine. I want a little airflow for this. I'm not gonna stack this kiln really tight. So for me, it's fine to have a little bit of space, but you can do it with them touching. Now, in a glaze kiln though, you wouldn't want them to touch, right? Because a glaze kiln, if they're touching, they're gonna fuse to each other, and then they're gonna be stuck forever, and you're gonna have some funky sculpture, which is cool and fun, but not really what we want. So what I do when I'm firing glaze kilns, to make sure that they're not gonna touch, I just put my finger down and I make sure there's a finger's width between, and if not, I just slide things around. You know, you don't want the handles touching the sides either, so make sure you turn these cups so nobody's touching the elements or the holders on the side. So right there, I can see. You know, if you can see between the pots, and I don't mean just see a tiny sliver of light, I mean you can see like 1/4 of an inch down there, or a little more, that's fine. You know, having airflow in your kiln is not a bad thing. It's not bad to have empty space for the air to move around. It actually fires your kiln more evenly, and you'll probably get better glaze results. Just saying. All right, so I'm actually gonna spread this out because I don't have a ton of pieces to go in this kiln, but you know, it's the holidays, I'm trying to get this stuff done. this guy looks a little, you look a little tall. Let's double check. So if you have a pot that you think is a little too tall, you can easily double check the height with your kiln post. So I'm just pulling that one up, and I've got a kiln post here. Now you need something flat to go across, and another kiln post works perfectly. And you lay it on and you just look. I don't know if you can see from that angle. So right now, this pot and this kiln post are basically the same height. So I know that this little bottle cannot go on the shelf unless I make the kiln post taller by adding onto it, which I'm not gonna do. So what I'm gonna do is see if I got another one that's a bit shorter, and that one is shorter. Double check. Yep, that's good. We have plenty of clearance on that, so I'll put that little guy there. And you could do the same with a mug. Like if you were unsure, you can put your mug there. Now, I can see by looking at this from my angle, there's no worries, but you can see there's plenty of room. And you could keep a ruler or a little stick if you wanted to use. I just use other kiln posts because they happen to be right there. All right, so this is ready for its shelf. And I'm just gonna add one on. Slide it down. And you don't want the shelf touching the walls either. You want it in the center. Just get that down in. There we go. And then you want to make sure it's not going to wobble. See how there's a bit of wobble down in there? You don't want that. So what you do is you lift up where the wobble is, and you kind of get it to set, and it will lock. Right there, it locked. And you know, whatever reason that does it, one side's wobblier than the other. Kiln posts aren't exactly even. It just happens that way. Okay, so I'm ready for my next shelf, and that's going to be a bunch of these little bottles. Now, the post that I put in before was a 6-inch post, and I already know that some of these bottles are taller than 6-inch. So I'm going to be using 2 posts to stack up to make a bigger kiln post, and I'll show you how to do that. Just get these guys all in, and I'm doing an extremely loose stack for demonstration purposes, but I would probably go a little tighter. I probably have a few more pieces in here, but this gives you guys the idea of what is happening, right? Okay, so I know the one I just used was a 6, and that was not going to be tall enough. So I have these right here, which are a 4, right? And then I have some 3s. So if I use the 4s and the 3s, come on, another 3, I will get 7. So let's see if this is going to work. I'm just going to stack it down in. You know, because you're looking at it from the top, you don't have the best view. So seeing from the side, when you stack a kiln that is a front loader, it's so much easier. Well, that's obviously way tall. I don't know if you guys can tell, but that's crazy tall. Like I don't think I need to go that tall. So let's see what else I have in my little cabinet over here. How about these guys? I would say these guys will work. Yep, perfect. And just to double check, I really don't need to because I can tell. This is the tallest pot I have on this shelf. And this is my post. So I don't know if I lean it back, you guys can see this is significantly taller, right? So I'll put that down in. So I have plenty of clearance. No worries. Next shelf. So this will be my last shelf because I'm doing some taller vases, and they need to go on the top, and I want to make sure I have enough clearance. See, it's a little wobbly again. Same thing as I did before, you just adjust it. You know what? This shelf's warped. That's a good lesson. So check your kiln shelves, they do tend to warp. I don't know if you guys can see the warping, probably not. But it's actually warped, it's bowed a bit. So that one's got to go. I need to buy a new kiln shelf. All right, here's one that's nice and flat. Put this guy in. I'm checking it. Let me get this bottom. Ooh, wiggly. A little bit of a wobble still. but that's all right because I'm gonna take it out and check it again. So this is part of the process. This is gonna happen to you. You're gonna be loading your kiln and you're gonna have some kiln posts being wiggly and you don't know why. So all you do is check the ends. So if you look on the ends of these, you can see there's some buildup of kiln shelf. Sometimes they stick and you need to clean these off. So you can get a kiln, I don't know what they call it. It's kiln rub brick, I think. Yes, a rub brick, that's what it is. But I'm doing this. I'm rubbing the two ends together and that kind of scrapes this guck off. Now, really, you should do this with a mask on or outside. You should not breathe this because it is silica dust. I am like kicking up into the air and that is not a good thing. All right, so that one's good. Check this one. So these are little maintenance things that you should do between firings, you know, after you unload a kiln. I know it's not fun and nobody really wants to do this kind of stuff, but you have to do it to keep your equipment working properly. Or else you do it here on YouTube. All right, so let's see how much better this is. Hopefully it's good. So it's settled. So what will happen is you'll set your shelf in and it will settle a bit, but that's good. So there we go. All right, last layer right here. So I've got these beautiful vases with these sprig molds going in. And I'm hoping they've got the clearance. Yeah, that one's good. Yeah, but this is the tallest one of them all, so. Oh, well, that's fine. No worries there on that one. And one more. All right, so you notice how I lined my posts up on that bottom shelf. I didn't really talk about it then. Just so that all the posts are lined up in the same spot for each layer. And so this is ready to go. That's it. Now this is a kiln sitter kiln, and you can see this right here is my kiln sitter. Now they run on what's called pyro bars. This was a pyro bar, and it melted. So normally they are straight across. Ooh, do I have one? All right, here's the part where I play some funky music or something. Intermission music while I run over and grab a pyro bar. Sorry about that, guys. Actually, no, it's good. Okay. So here's a box of pyro bars. They come in these little boxes, pyrometric bars. We call them pyro bars. Now I am firing to 05 and it says right there, 05, and they look like this, little bars. And there'll be a little number stamped on the side, 05. I don't know if that'll focus and show you guys. But this is the before, this is the after, it melts. You can see the difference in the color too. All right, so the way this works is out here I have a control panel. If I'm gonna adjust you, let me adjust you a bit. Hold still. So on my control panel out here, you're gonna set the trigger and you're gonna put this bar in with the numbers facing outwards. So you're gonna lay it in there. See, this is how it works. The bar melts, so pretend the bar has melted. You pull it out. This little guy goes down. Ooh, I was holding it. This little guy goes down, and the trigger goes off, and it shuts the kiln off. So that's how kiln sitters work. A note of caution when firing kiln sitter kilns. Ooh, get in there. Never fire them unattended. Always be around and be there when the kiln goes off. Sometimes these little bars can melt funny and turn into blobs and stick. And I don't know if you saw, but when I first took my bar out, my little thermocouple thing is sticking. My little rod, that's what it is sticking. Yeah, it's sticking a lot. It's holding itself up. So because it's sticking, you want to be nearby. I always use a pyrometer, a secondary backup to check. So I use a pyrometer to measure the temperature, and when I'm getting close to the top temp, I watch it like crazy. And if it doesn't start to melt on its own, I will shut it down. Like if it hits the temp it should be and it hasn't gone off, you just shut the kiln off. All right, so here we have loaded a bisque kiln. You know, if it was a glaze kiln, we would do the exact same things. Just double check to make sure nothing is touching, right? Because you definitely don't want your pots touching in a glaze kiln. That's a huge no-no. All right, guys. So this is what I had to share with you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope this was helpful. You know, as always, I'd love to hear your feedback. If you have any questions or suggestions, please send them along as well. And if you're not following me yet or subscribing, go ahead, right there, right over here. right over in there, in here somewhere. Click the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up. All right, guys, take care, and I'll catch you next time in the studio.